And you mentioned the scene the comedy scene in Massachusetts and the comedy scene in New York. Two scenes that in the past have been seen as, at least in a stereotypical or broad sense, very competitive. And I feel like, I want to get your opinion on it. Has that changed in the past, I would say, 15 years? It seems like people are a little more, if they're doing stand-up, they're sort of like all in it together. Like that sort of improv idea of we're all propping each other up has spilled out into comedy at large.
What an interesting observation. And I think probably you're right. Especially at the level, I think I had a great cohort of people in Massachusetts that I came up with, starting in the Boston scene. And so I had people that I started with and people that were working when I started and I was looking up to them. And then there were the people that were like way ahead, like people that had been headliners for decades. It was great. Like almost everyone was super supportive, and there were some people that kind of wanted to put up roadblocks or stand in your way or like compete. But I don't think those people necessarily are in it to win it. I mean, well, that's not true. They're in it to win, right? They're like, I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to win. And it's like, Nikki Glazer, who's very, very funny and has a show that's very funny, said to me one time about comedians, it's like, these are going to be our coworkers forever. And I think that that's like an important thing to remember. And in New York has been way, way, way more supportive than I expected. I expected to be very cutthroat and dog eat dog. But I think it's generally like you show up and you do work and you prove that you're there to try hard and do well. And people appreciate that you're part of the fabric of the scene.
Oh, yeah. I know a good friend of mine. You may know him, John Zaluga.
Yes.
He does a show called Amazing Town every Tuesday in the city. And he books those shows. He's booked those kind of shows in the past. And, he's told me, and I don't think I'm telling any tales out of school if he's listening, that he's like, if someone's a dick, you just don't book them.
Right. Right.
So there is kind of like that sort of new tide coming in of like, well, if someone's an asshole, why would we even entertain them?
I think it's so rare. I mean, like, you hear all these stories about like cranky geniuses, right? Or like eccentric artists. But I think most people that are like eccentric to the point of being really disruptive to the people they're working with don't rise to the level of genius, right? Like, no. It's not a lot of Mozarts, like most of the people that think they're so brilliant that it justifies their personality are not, and you don't have to deal with them. But there are very few people that you're like, oh man, this person is really hard to work with, but when they show up, they really bring it.
It's like, no, because they're already putting up a wall. They're basically saying to everyone else around them, I don't need your influence. I don't need critique. I don't need constructive criticism. I'm done evolving. This is as good as it's gonna get.
Yeah, and you have to take it.
Yeah, fucking take. I am the best.
Yep, but I think most people are like professional and courteous, if not warm and friendly, especially to like within the scene.
Oh, and especially, like you said, in a place like New York City where, I guess outside of L.A., I would assume, this is where all the jobs are in comedy. You don't want to go place to place knocking on doors and being like, oh, you don't recognize my genius? Well, fuck you. I'm going to go somewhere else. It's like, well, no, you're not going to go somewhere else.
Right. Like, there are only so many bridges you can burn before you're stuck in the town you live in.